Now I want to shift here more closer to home rather than speculation to give you a sense of a industry that you all just experienced, and you may know something about professionally as well, but media. Because everyone here grew up with the old media, and everyone is probably familiar and getting more exposed and more familiar with the new media. This transformation is an extraordinary transformation. This thing has happened so fast in historical terms, and is so profound that it's worth just looking at some of the numbers of this. Essentially what has driven this is essentially the internet. I mean, on a basic level, everyone gets that. But here's how it worked. Essentially, the internet was only introduced in, let's say, the early 90s here. And so you have basically had two booms in the internet. You had the low bandwidth internet boom, which is the 90s, and you had the high bandwidth internet boom, which is essentially the richer media, the higher bandwidth media. That's the way to understand what's happened. The first crew, any media company, old media company that had to do with text and photo, which could go over the low bandwidth, got hit. Not fundamentally, but they got hit early. The ones that didn't, you couldn't move television, you couldn't move video across the internet in the first wave. Those are only starting to get hit now. YouTube wasn't invented till 2005. It didn't become a company until 2005, for example. Anyhow, but in short order, all those industries now are getting hit. The bigger and bigger the bandwidth comes. And so to the point now, in 2 decades essentially, you've watched the impact now of the internet, and it's now only going to go up, right? Now, what that means in terms of the old media is every one of these media industries of the old media was essentially a top-down broadcast medium. Newspapers, the editors and the journalists put it out. No one could say anything about it. You know, same thing with television. You know, you had a little broadcast crew, boom, everyone could watch the TV, couldn't do anything else. Every one of those things is completely knocked on their butt right now. And the ones that really were hit early were those written media ones are the most severely traumatized. And I'll give you one example, just to drive home the numbers on this. This is the circulation of newspapers. 1984 was the peak circulation in the United States. It's 63 million circulation. This is just, again, a 2000, this has even gotten worse since I made this slide, but I use these numbers. They had basically a 50% drop in circulation. Well, any business that loses 50% of their customers is going to be traumatized. And in fact, what has happened in the last 2 years is every single newspaper in the United States has essentially is on the block and is barely surviving. And a lot of them are going under. One newspaper a week is going under in the United States right now. And they're not all the biggest ones, although some of them, Boston Globe, San Francisco Chronicle, they're about to go under. This is like a traumatized industry, believe me. The second thing, though, is it's now hitting these higher bandwidth ones. And so you can, this is just one good example of the slide of broadcast television. It used to be in the early 80s, wasn't that long ago, 90% primetime viewership you'd have in the big broadcast crew. Now you basically get less than 30%. Now, you know, a lot of that's cable and everything picking it up, but it's now also going to the internet and all this other kind of things that are happening. Anyhow, that is not an industry you want to basically be driving, which is why NBC's frantically trying to take Leno and putting him here and pulling him out and putting him there. It's like, that's the economics of it. Now, new media, on the other hand, is exploding, and everyone knows that's true, but just look at the numbers here. And this will drive home how dramatic this is happening. So for example, let's take YouTube. YouTube, like I said, didn't exist until 2005. And in that first year, December 2005 till September 2006 there, they were sending out 100 million video streams a day. 100 million video streams a day in the first year of its existence. Now, put it in context, Seinfeld in the 90s would hit about 30 million homes. Now, it's not exactly the same thing, but this is 100 million video streams. They're not exactly one for one, but the point is, just give you a sense of the numbers. And now YouTube is, they won't confirm this, but they're probably closer to 200 million video streams a day, and they are only one site among many in video streaming. So essentially, you are watching explosive numbers in this thing. Now, the flip side is I mentioned this thing about Facebook. Facebook, just to look at these numbers, if Facebook were a nation, it would be the third biggest nation in the world. It's bigger than the United States. And every single person on it is college educated or at least in high school and a smart person. There's no peasants, rural peasants, and there's, you know, like in China and India. This is essentially an amazing group of people, and it's growing. And the other thing is, they're adding 700,000 new people a day was what was happening in the, I don't know what the latest numbers are, but this is happening in the summer and into the fall. So those numbers keep going up. I've changed this slide. It says 350 million users. In the last 6 months, I've had to change that slide about 3 times because it's just gone from, it was 200, and then it was, oh my God, it's 250. And anyhow, that's the network effect as people get connected up. That's huge difference in social media. Actually, 2/3 are outside the United States for your Go Global theme. And here, phone, again to your Go Global theme. We've now got 1.3 billion people on the planet online. Actually, it's probably a little bit, it's probably edged up a little bit since I made this slide. We have now gotten, this is an astounding fact, basically 4 billion people on the planet have cell phones. Most people in this room probably didn't have a cell phone 10 years ago, or maybe, let's think 10 years ago. Maybe not 10 years ago, but say certainly 15 years ago. You might have had a company phone that was like that or something. But now, like every peasant in in kind of Zimbabwe, well, not Zimbabwe. That's the one place that probably didn't have it. But anyhow, it's an amazing fact. And this is why Twitter and all these other kind of phone apps are just exploding, because the amount of people that are able to use this thing is huge. So actually, by the way, 1.3 billion of those online are basically coming through handlines. I mean, they might also, like me, can get online on a computer and online on, with your phone. But that's an astounding number. And so what's basically going to happen is all that 4 billion is going to be online in very short order. So we are going to have this fully interconnected planet, even if a guy makes $5 a day or something like that.